Hi coders, my name is Bhupinder and I welcome you to my channel Adaptive Learning. In today's video, I will show you how you can make REST APIs with TypeScript and Node.js. And I will not use TypeORM in this tutorial. I will use simply Express, and with Express and TypeScript I will create REST APIs. Alright, and there are few things that I have done in advance. Let me show you what are the things. So as you can see, we will use this user table. I have created this table user, and I have made this user ID auto generated and primary key, and then we have a username, user age, and user email. All right, so this table we are going to use. All right, and if I show you the project structure now, so it is quite different uh, from what we have earlier. So I have created config folder. Inside config folder I have created db.ts, and then we have controller, and then we have user.controller.ts, then we have interfaces, then we have user.interface.ts, and then we have services, and then we have user.services.ts. So let me tell you why I have created all these folders. So this is the way which this is the according to me, this is the correct way to handle all the things. So what I'll do, I'll keep all the code related to my database inside db.ts. I will keep all the controllers related code inside my user.controller. I will keep all the type. If I am going to create a type of user, then I will keep that type inside user.interface.ts. But if you are using TypeORM, I would suggest you to create entities folder, because there you will need also entities. There will be entities, then you will have a DTO and other thing as well. All right. So, and the services, inside services I will write down all the code related to logics. All right. So what I'll do, I will start with db.ts. So what I'll do, I will not write down all the code. I will copy db code to save the time. So I will copy and simply I will paste that code here. So it is quite similar. If you are following me from my tutorials, then you will see this function is same. What we have done, we have just make this, we have just given the type of query and the query params, and then we have exported this function as a default. And then here, as you can see in this project, I am not using any environmental variable. So if we don't have environmental variable, then it will execute, it will read this localhost root and India at the rate, these kind of things. Okay. Port, because this port is always expecting a number, but when we write process.env.port, it is a string. So we had to change this string to number. That is why we are using number. Okay. And so we are done with the db. And let me in this file, user.service, in this file what I'll do, I'll simply first import execute query function. So I will type execute query function, and then I will need a request and response from express. So I will simply restructure them from express module, and I will request and a response. All right. And now we want one more thing, we want user type, and we did not specify type. So what we'll do, we will go inside user.interfaces interface, and here in this what I'll do, I'll simply export interface and the user, and here user underscore id, and it will be a number, and then we have a user name and it will be a string, then we have a user age and it is going to be a number, and then we have a user email, and it will be string. All right, like this. Now we can or we will destructure customer from user from interfaces. All right, and now what I'll do, I'll make few functions. I will make a function to add a user, and I will make a function to fetch users, and I will make one more function to fetch user by id. I will not make all the functions. Okay, rest of the function you will make by yourself. All right, so the very first function that I'm going to make, and it is export async function, and it will be add user, and here request equal to request like this, and response like this. And here we will use try and catch block. Catch, if we get error, what we will send in the response, we will send in the response with status 500, we will send same error. Whatever the error we are getting, we are sending that back into the response. And now here what I'll do, I'll simply use I will create a variable user, and this user will be type of user. And here in user, what I'll do, user, and then I will assign request dot body. And now what I'll do, I will create one more variable SQL, and inside this I will write the query insert into user, and here user name, user age, user email, values, and we can put here question mark, question mark, question mark. That's it. Now because we are using a sync, so we have to use await, and I will make one more variable here, added user, and here I will put await, and I will call execute query, and I will pass SQL, and then we can fetch user dot username, and and then user dot user age, and then user dot user email like this. And then we can send this user in the response. So for that we will simply type response dot status, and status will be 201, and the data added user like this. Okay, this is the one function, and I will make one more function here to get all the user. So export async function, and get all users, and here I will use try and catch block, and we will send the error in the response. If we get error response, we need to, I will simply copy, and I will simply this thing here like this, and we can access response now, and status 500, and JSON the error. If everything goes fine, so what we will do, we will simply here let SQL, and here write a query, select star from user, and then we will simply call make one more variable, and this variable fetched users, and because we are using async, we will put await, and then we call execute query, and then we will pass SQL, and then we will pass empty array as a second parameter. and then we can send this fetch users in the response and with the status 200 like this JSON and then fetch users. Alright, and I will create one more. I will just simply copy this function and paste here and get user by ID, and here I will change this uh, where where user underscore user underscore id equal to question mark, and then because we want that id, how can we get that id? So for that, first we will let user underscore id, and it will be a type of number, and then what we will do, we will write request dot params dot user underscore id. Right now it is giving error. It is saying user id is declared but its value is never used. Okay, I we have to cut it, and we have to provide first number because now it is fine. So normally what happens when you simply let me show you. Let me just comment this for now, and let me just user let user underscore id, and it will be a type of number. Okay, and now what we want user id, we want whatever the id we are passing from the postman, we want that id, and we are saving that id inside user underscore id, right? So like user underscore id. So if you do that, so as you can see, it is giving error, it is throwing error. So the error is the string is not accessible, assignable to type number. So that means this is number which we have declared just above, and this is completely a string, so we have to change this string to number. Okay, so the same thing we have done in this line. All right, so I can remove this now, and I can simply uncomment it like this, and here we will pass user id like this, and here I will change this fetch 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 user by id, and here I will simply call that variable like this. All right, so we are done with functions. Now what I'll do now, I'll go inside my controller, user.controller, and here what I'll do, I'll simply first import express from express, and then what I'll do, I'll make a variable, and let me const, and this is router, and I can get router from express dot routers like this. Now what I'll do, I'll simply export default router like this. And now what I'll do, we have three functions and we have three methods, like we have three functions, and those functions have different functionality. So I will simply call those function here. For that, first I'll use router dot post, because we want to add user. So I will use add user, and then we have a router dot get, and this will users, so it will provide me all the users, get all users. And then we have one more, that is we are getting user based on the id. So we will simply pass id here, and then we can call get user by id like this. Okay, so we are done with this file as well. Now we will go inside index.js, and here we don't want this, and we also don't want this. We can simply remove it. And now what I'll do, I'll simply import uh, user. uh, Let me check on. Okay, so user controller, and it is from controller, then user controller like this. All right, and what we want now, we want to set a common route under. So this is user, so all the user related route fall under slash user and then the route of your user. Okay, so and now I can simply call this user controller. All right, and now save it, and let me show you this folder right now. Okay, so let me now start the server is already running, so let me stop it first and start it once again. Npm start, and while the server is while the server is getting started, so what we can do, we can open postman and can simply go on localhost 9000 slash user slash users. Okay, let me check. Okay, server has started on 9000. If I click on send, then we should be able to see empty, because right now we don't have any user, as you can see the database. Okay, now let me add one user into the database, and localhost 9000 slash user slash add like this, and we have to pass the JSON. And for that, what I'll do, I'll simply copy that JSON from here and simply put it here, and before hitting I will beautify it first. Okay, now if I hit the send button, as you can see we have got one entry in database. If I show you the data, so as you can see we have got one user. And now if I try to fetch users, so yeah, now we are able to see one user. So that means our routes are working, our controller are working perfectly. So let me let me add one more user so that we can check user on the basis of id. So this is Bhupinder1 and this is Bhupinder1 at the rate. So let me hit the send button. So yeah, as you can see this user also has been added in database successfully. Now if I fetch user, so it will give me both the user. Okay, now what if I want user on the id? Simply if I pass it to, it will give me only this user. It should. So let me just try. Okay. So it is saying bad here, bad field, unknown column in your where clause. Okay, so let me check what we have done wrong. So I will go inside my user dot service classes and get by id user underscore select staff from user where user underscore id. I think this is the correct name, user underscore id, user underscore id, right? Okay, so what is the error? What is saying unknown column length where clauses? So select user, let me just check this. So we have passed 2, so it should, yeah, this look good to me. Let me change this thing. Maybe this is the disturbance. So let me let user underscore id, and this is type of number. And now what I'll do, I'll simply user underscore id, and then what I'll do, I'll simply request dot params dot user underscore id like this. Okay. Okay, if I stop the server and start the server again, I don't know, yeah, why we are getting this error, because this line is equivalent to this line, I think. Yeah, it is equivalent. Let me check. So, id, we are passing id. Okay, we are passing here id, so we have to pass here user underscore id. And let me stop the server. And before starting the server, let me undo what are the changes that I have made of services, and let me undo all the changes from here. Okay, now, no, okay, okay, now if I start the server, we should be able to see the user on the basis of id. Okay, if I click on, so now it is working. We are passing id2 and we are getting the user who persist on id2. Okay, now if I pass id1 and hit the send button, so yeah, we are getting that user, so it is working absolutely fine. So guys, this is how you can build REST API. And if I show you the folders, you will see these are the folder db.js, and these are the folder which was created in javascript. So guys, if you think that this video was useful for you, please like the video and share this video to your friends. And if you want to if you want this code, you can get this code from my github repository. I will put all the code, all of this code in there, so you can get this code from there. And I will put that github link in my description, so you can download the code. Okay, so guys, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye, take care.